Hey there, welcome to day 21 of our Get Up and Go Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. We just finished another round of soap with the second area or aspect of our life, of the 7 key areas of our life: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, and contribution. And I went through an example using a financial example. Prior to that, I did a physical example. Now, what's next? So what do we do now? Now what? Any way you want to ask that question, that's the next question to ask. Okay, we did this. What did I learn from it? And I feel like I should be going through a whole processes, systems, rituals, habits. What do we do to keep moving forward? But I want to go through the SOAP framework one more time. So tomorrow, we're going to go through the SOAP framework again for the next 4 days. S, the O, the A, the P, on a specific area or aspect of your life. So decide and share in the comments below what you're going to work on: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, or contribution. Which area? I don't need the detailed thing that you're going to work toward, or the part of that, because these are bigger than just one thing, right? Oh, I'm just going to get physically fit. Okay, that's a little broad. So pick which area. That's all you need to share today for the homework or the action item is: what area are you going to work on? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to pick relationships. Why? Because when I rate myself in these, and I rank myself, we did that early on in the challenge, I rate myself the lowest in physical, financial, and relationships. Those are the areas that I consistently find that I give the lowest rating to. Therefore, that means I need to work on those areas, right? So we'll do relationships, but I want to know, that's what I'm going to be doing, but I want to know what you're going to be working on. So I can give some examples of that along the way too during the challenge. So today, in addition to that, because that's a pretty quick and easy lesson, right? I want to talk about something called the primary question. Now, I learned about this, heard about it early on. I probably read it in Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. I think that he covers it in that book, or otherwise it was in one of the trainings I went to of Tony's that I first heard about and was exposed to this primary question concept. And I thought it was interesting, and I listened, and like so many things we hear and we learn, I thought it was interesting, and then I left that training or stopped reading the book and went about my merry way and about my life and totally forgot about the primary question. Until 2010, I woke up in the hospital after being in a coma following a sudden cardiac arrest, and the first words out of my mouth were WTF. Now, if you don't know what WTF stands for, direct message me, but most of us know at this point what WTF stands for. But literally, out of my breathing tube, raspy throat, scratchy voice, that is the first phrase that came out of my mouth. And that was interesting and eye-opening a few days later when I thought about it and figured out what the heck was going on and what had happened to me and where I was and why all these hundreds of people were coming in, not hundreds, but at least 100 people came in, and we're all delighted that I had woken up and that I was, conscious and could actually put 2 words together, or 3 words together in this case. But the funny thing was, my family had been laying bets on, because they assumed I would wake up, because my family has a lot of hope and we're praying and things. And they had been laying bets on what I would say first when I came out of the coma. And of course, my sister and my daughter guessed right. They knew exactly what I was going to say. And guess what? Later on, after they told me that, I got to thinking about this primary question concept. As I was recovering and in cardiac rehab and all that stuff, I had time to read and do and study and try to figure out what the heck had happened to me and what I was doing wrong in my life, and yet why I was so lucky to still be here, that I could figure out what the heck I had been doing wrong and what I was going to change and do differently. And the idea of the primary question came into my mind full force because I don't know, I was sitting and doing something. I don't even remember when I first recalled it or realized it, but I thought, well, WTF, that's not a very good thing to be your primary thought pattern that's underlying everything that you do and say. Now, at the time, I was really, really frustrated all the time. I was always upset. I was always frustrated. I was, running like 6 different businesses. I was having major problems in my marriage. I was struggling raising teenagers and all kinds of other things. And I wasn't taking care of myself at all. That's probably the biggest root cause. Is I had all this stress, all this strife. We were in a lawsuit with the city for one business. had a really bad, terrible business partner, and another. It was just all kinds of things. And several of the businesses I was actually involved in were soul sucking to me. Great businesses for other people, but to me and my personality, absolutely soul crushing work that I had to be doing in them. And it didn't feel right or good to me. So the primary question for me at the time was WTF. Well, WTF automatically supposes that something is wrong, right? If I'm asking, well, what the F? It's because I'm judging already that something is different than it should be, or than different than it is right now. So I'm automatically putting myself into frustration. And this became a cycle for me. I don't remember when that became my primary question and when I started asking that all the time subconsciously, but everyone in my family knew I was doing it all the time. I just I wasn't consciously aware of that was my primary driving question. So how do we know what our primary driving question is if we don't consciously know it? If we're operating, it's like our beliefs. We operate automatically based on our beliefs. And most of the beliefs that we formed before we were 7 years old. Now, I didn't believe this until about a week ago. I was on a call. Don't even know how I ended up on the call, but I was on this call, and the lady was doing like channeling and reading, and you know, I guess she's like Esther Hicks or something, and she has a direct channel to higher beings. And I've never met her. She's never met me. Never been on a call like that before. I still don't even know how I ended up there. But she said, well, type in a question that you would like an answer to. So I typed in a question, and I thought maybe as she was doing other people that she would skip over me because she doesn't know me and she's never met me. And the first thing she said was, I don't think we've ever met, Sharon, but let's talk about this. Let me see what comes up. And she was dead nuts on. And I mean, scary dead nuts on, but she referred to something that happened when I was between age 3 and 5, which I've touched on in my mind before, but pretty much ignored. It wasn't a huge traumatic thing, but to a 3 or to 5-year-old, it was a huge traumatic thing. And it wasn't about other people, but I formed a belief about myself at that time, at that age, that has impacted me the entirety of my life until last week when I started thinking about it and addressing it and finding ways to actually work on that and let that go and realize, oh my gosh, here I think I'm so different than everybody else, and that I, you know, because we all think we're different than everybody else, right? And I didn't really believe that we formed our core beliefs before we were 7 years old. And I guess there's lots of scientists and psychologists and people smarter than me that have said that, yet I personally didn't believe it and internalize it until last week when this example was right in my face. Somebody I've never met before, don't know, that said, this is when this happened. And you know, and it was really eye-opening and very enlightening. So primary question, we don't know where they come from and how they exactly form, but we're always operating on one. We're operating on our beliefs automatically. We're operating on this primary question automatically. So I'm going to, of course, share what you do about it and what you want and why you want to know about this primary question. For one, you want to know because it's just like our limiting beliefs. It is putting like a cap on what we will and will not do, what we do and do not believe, what we're capable of, and we're really capable of anything, right? But if we have this limiter on that keeps us down in our beliefs or our primary question, it's going to keep us at a certain level, even though we want things that are well beyond that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out what is our primary question. Now, if you don't know what your primary question is on a conscious level, like I really didn't know. I mean, I knew I was frustrated all the time, but I did not realize that I was always in my head judging and saying WTF, 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 which means, why isn't this the way I want it to be right now? So I would be in a constant state of frustration. Now, once I realized that that was my primary question, I said, okay, well, what beliefs are behind that? And there's a whole lot of beliefs behind that. I won't go into all that, but whenever we figure out what our primary question is, and we can tell by the results we're getting, right? If I'm feeling frustrated all the time, that's a belief. Frustration's a belief, right? That things should be different than they are. I can track back to figure out what my primary question is. What am I asking all the time? Or I might know based on beliefs that I have what my primary question is. if we don't know what our primary question is, we can just ask people around us. We can ask people that we work with. We can ask people, our friends. We can ask our family members. I can ask my kids, my sisters, my parents. Everybody knew my primary question except me, right? Because I didn't want to consciously be aware that that was my primary question. Because once I become aware of it, then I know that I have to change it, because I don't want to keep living in a constant state of frustration. A constant state of frustration and the WTF question actually caused me to drop dead and have a sudden cardiac arrest. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't want to really experience that again until I'm done here on the planet. So what else is possible? What could I ask myself that would be a better primary question? Because I had to ask myself, is my primary question that I'm operating on automatically, is that creating what I want? Is that really giving me what I want, the feelings I want, the results that I want? And the answer, of course, was a resounding no. So then what am I going to do about it? I get to choose, and I have to choose. It's imperative that I choose another primary question. So at the time, I probably spent 2 weeks thinking about this and on and off, and I just let my subconscious kind of stew on it. And I said, okay, WTF is a bad primary question. What would be better? And I had a couple that I played with. I don't even remember what they are now, but I ended up with, what am I creating now? Because if I ask myself in any given situation, what am I creating now? Well, sometimes I'd be creating more frustration. So is that something that I want? No. So then it would cause me to say, well, what do I want to create? And then I would start changing my behaviors to create something different. And I've used what am I creating now for probably almost a decade now. And I was thinking about that as I was thinking about this subject last night. And I'm like, okay, I get kind of snide with my what am I creating now statement. And so maybe it's time for me to find a newer primary question. And maybe it's just, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? What do I intend? What do I want from this situation? I don't know exactly what it is, but I'll come up with one as part of this exercise too. So what are some primary questions that people have that they might not even know about it? I think probably one of the most popular ones is, what's in it for me? WIIFM. That can be both a good and a bad primary question, right? It can be good if it's supporting you and if it's driving you to create what you want and get what you want. It can be bad if you're using it to be selfish and take advantage of other people and to win at all costs, etc. So WIIFM, what's in it for me, which we talked about, I believe, earlier in the challenge. It's an important question, but is it the best primary driving question for you? Only you can answer that. What are some others? There's a lot of negative primary questions, and I think we get these when we're kids, a lot of them, and that's where I'm starting to believe this, okay, maybe there's a lot to this before we're 7-year-old thing. What will they think of me? What if they don't like me? Who am I to blank? Who am I to write a book? Who am I to have a challenge? Who am I to do live video? Who am I to have my own company? Who am I to get a new job? Who am I to be married? Who am I to be whatever, fill in the blank? If it's something that's moving you in the direction you want to go, then it's a good primary question. If it's a question that can be used to keep you down or limit you, probably not a great question. WTF I put on the list, of course. I'm going to sneak and grab this so I can look at the list. Let's see. I don't have that good of a memory. So what are some other examples of primary questions? Why am I such a blank or an blank? Why am I so stupid? Why am I such an idiot? Why do I always do that? Why does this always happen to me? Why am I so fat? Why am I so ugly? Why am I so shy? Why am I so scared? Why am I so small? Why am I so mean? Why am I so whatever? Why am I so angry? Some people actually have a primary question that keeps them angry all the time. Heck, I had one that kept me frustrated all the time. Why am I not good enough? Why am I invisible? How come life is so easy for others and hard for me? Life isn't fair. I think did we talk about life isn't fair? If we didn't, I'll make sure we talk about life isn't fair. WTF, that was mine. I can't do anything right, or why can't I do anything right? Here's one. Why am I such a klutz? Why am I so uncoordinated? I'm choking up because I still ask myself that one. That's a primary question I need to get rid of. But it's not my overriding primary question. why should I care? That is a big one. Why should I care? You know, like it's kind of related to what's in it for me, but you know, why should I care? It's none of my business. And you know what? A lot of stuff is none of your business, but your life is your business, so it is your business. Why do I get blamed for everything? And then it's not my fault. So either taking the blame all the time or never taking any blame and always blaming other people. So that's just a couple of examples. So today, as a fun exercise, go ahead, share in the comments below what area you want to work on in the SOAP framework next. Which area are you going to go through with the SOAP framework? And after that, we will go through all the others, all 4 others. We'll go through, in one day, we'll go through the whole SOAP framework with an example of each of the other areas. Because I want to make sure we get through all 7 areas and aspects of our life with a clear example so that you know what to do and you know how to use it and apply it to your life. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. So I also want you to start thinking about this primary question. I don't expect you to figure out you could probably figure out what your primary question is today, but I don't expect you to analyze and decide if that's a good one for you or not and then come up with another one yet. It's just a big topic that is so critical, and it's usually something that we aren't even aware of, and that on a conscious level, we're aware of it on a subconscious level because it's driving everything. It's like, you know, our subconscious drives everything. It tells us to blink. It tells us to breathe. It tells us to swallow. And it also tells us how to think and how to feel about different situations and how to analyze situations. And it filters out all of the information that's coming at us from the world that we don't need to know. So, and then it tells us what is important. Well, it isn't always right? Just like our feelings and our observations of a situation aren't always what's really going on or what's accurate, because it's all filtered out by our subconscious, by our senses. We only see what we want to see. We could have a whole discussion on that. I say you get what you expect. We get what we expect. We see what we expect to see so often. And what we expect to see filters and changes the environment and the situation that we're in because of our expectations. So that's why it's more fun to be intentional. But start thinking about the topic of primary question. If you want more information on it, ask in the comments below, and I will find a great resource. I will see. I think it's in Awaken the Giant Within, but I will see if that's where Tony Robbins first presented that and started talking about it. And I'm sure he learned it and got it from someone else. Maybe it's a Jim Rohn thing. I don't know. But it came from somewhere, and it doesn't matter where it came from because you take it and you make it your own. And that's the important thing, is it's a tool that you can have in your toolbox. By changing your primary question, you can change everything. And I love things that we can do, smaller things that we can do that make massive impact on our lives. And this primary question has been one of these for me. And so I wanted to make sure I shared it with you. So our challenge for today, go out, have an awesome day. Any questions, ask in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow for day 22 of our 30+ day challenge. And we're going to talk about the S in relationships. I don't know what kind of relationship question I'm going to ask or work on. Again, got to find a little piece of it. Can't do the whole thing. It's too broad a thing. See you tomorrow.